Let me take you back to an earth-shattering, life-changing moment. I had just completed about 60 hours of work. For those of you who own businesses in here, you know that that clock just keeps on ticking. I strolled past my husband and my 2 kiddos under the age of 2 for a hopeful kitchen reprieve. And in fact, I had the exact opposite. I was faced with a vivid dream, a vision, in fact, and it was palpable. I was standing at the footside of my own gravestone. And I don't want anyone in here to ever experience that. So I want to ask you the same question that prompted me the opportunity to be standing here nearly a decade later. What will be written on your tombstone? It won't be your titles or your accolades. It won't be your business or your mission statement, and surely not how much money you make. So it'll merely be 2 to 3 words that encapsulate your whole life lived. And I want you to think deeply about this because it changed the trajectory of my life. Luckily, it was my second chance, and you are not 6 feet under yet. So what happened? And I'm sure you're wondering, what did it say? Well, it was more about what it didn't say, because all it said was entrepreneur. You see, we live in a world filled with burnout and stress. We're overwhelmed, and we're facing identity crises. We're chasing validation in our titles, and we are risking it all in the name of love. We're hiding behind masks of identity that we never knew anyone wanted to see. There was parts of us that are broken or unworthy, and so we end up hiding. But what if I told you that abundance wasn't earned, it was inherited? What if I told you that love isn't something you fight for, it's something you receive? Have you ever heard of BHAGs? Big, hairy, audacious goals? Well, this was my BHAC invitation to life, to ask bigger, hairier, more audacious questions. So if we can stop the rat wheel, if we can stop the societal molds that all of us are living in, and we can do it through intentional questions, why not start today? So I want to give you the 4 steps to abundant living and the 4 audacious questions that will lead you there. Step 1 is to learn it. If you stop learning, you will stop growing. And if you stop growing, you start dying. So perhaps you too, like that moment for me, feel like you've just been existing, not fully living. And you are trapped in expectations that you were never meant to, ultimately hiding behind things like perfectionism or performance or people-pleasing. If you stop and pause long enough to ask the question why, you can take this first step of learning it and become unstuck. Because a mass majority of us are operating in unrecognized cycles and loops, trapped in performance, fear, and approval addiction. There are studies based on a psychologist by the name of Donald Hebb that shares neurons that fire together, wire together. And the more we repeat a thought, behavior, or action, the more it becomes a default. Through the concept of Hebbian learning, we will create these strong neural pathways that take that default into a natural pattern. So until you stop to learn, healthy or unhealthy, you won't have a choice. It's kind of like this. You've been walking this well-worn hiking trail for your whole life. Perhaps somebody that loved you or a mentor put you there and you don't even know where you're going. But it's safe and it's comfortable, so you keep walking it. Meanwhile, there's this deep calling inside of you to this narrow path, a path of adventure and abundance, a path of freedom, untapped potential, and ultimately, your purpose and truth. You want to get there, but you don't know how. And I'm going to tell you, it might be a little bit friction-filled, a bit uncomfortable, maybe even a little scary. But you are not given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. What does it require? It requires you to break free from old limiting mindsets and beliefs, from perhaps generational bondage points or traditions. And yes, that's where the friction can come in, but I don't want you to stay in that thought pattern. In fact, I want you to own the fact that you've now learned you're stuck. And that is just step 1. So there's more to be had. I want you to ask this bold, audacious question. Where is it that I am stuck? Perhaps who is keeping me from going where I'm meant to go? No longer are you living in default after step 1. Now you are aware and awakening. And you're on to step 2. Step 2 is to own it. And ownership is amazing on so many levels. First off, you have to know that what you naturally tend to do is you go from asking the question why to asking the question how. How did I get here? Perhaps it's your past, or the people, or the system, or the circumstances. And while all of those very well may be true, they can ruin your relationships. They can ruin your perspective on beautiful parts of your past, and they can ruin hopeful parts of your future. We want to do a posture shift. We want to go from pointing fingers to raising hands, because ownership is not about blame, shame, or guilt. It's about maturity. And it's saying, I have been walking this path long enough, and now I get to make the choice to change directions and go into this ultimate purpose and calling. So ask your question, the big audacious one, where is it that I'm meant to go? And what have I contributed to the lack of abundance in my life? Now you are no longer stuck in this place of default or hiding. You are now healing. And you're on to step 3. Step 3 is after you've learned it, it's after you've owned it, and it's now an acceptance through visualization. And you are going to open your heart and your hands to an opportunity of a new future. A study by the Journal of Neurophysiology and a man by the name of Pasquale Leone states that vividly imagining a dream or an experience rewires your brain just like actually doing it. Any athletes in the house who visualized the win before it actually happened, and then it happened? Yeah, me too. But this is for your life, not just the game. And it's knowing that through this particular process of visualization, you kind of have a hack of being able to unlock your next step of living into abundance. And your brain is proving it, because your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for planning and decision making, and your motor cortex, responsible for movement, are both lighting up at the same exact time, proving to yourself that this is my new thought, behavior, and action. And so you actually live into the visualization. When I recognized this hack, this is what I started to ask and visualize. What would it look like if wholeness didn't look like busy burnout? What would it look like if my future didn't have to hold tight to the past? What would it look like if my role as wife and mom didn't diminish me, but expanded me? What would it look like if there was fulfillment and impact in my work? And I want to invite you into a similar visualization opportunity. So open your hands as if you were about to receive a gift from your future, and close your eyes. And I want you to envision yourself 5 years from now. What are you doing? Who are you with? Are you fully free? Have you broken free? And what and who ultimately are you becoming? You've asked the big audacious question by asking, who am I becoming? And now you are not operating from lack of the past. You are walking into the abundance of your tomorrow. And on to the final step, step 4, which is to expect it. You have learned where you're stuck. You have owned your current lot in life. You have visualized what your tomorrow is going to look like. And now, in step 4, through expectation, you are going to align in full agreement with where you are going. And so what could alignment look like? If we know that expectation is not a passive action, and we know it is something we walk in boldness towards, then we build the ark before it rains, and we design the nursery before the baby comes. Expectation takes us away from scarcity mentality and into a place of thankful intention. It's kind of like a future gratitude practice, because now you are walking on a firm foundation in confidence that the vision you just had isn't just a dream, it's a promise of your new reality. We create expectations through declarations, and declarations coupled with repetition, because our brain likes it, allows us to cement this as our truth. So we thank the future. Thank you for peace in my home. Thank you for impact in my work. Thank you for clarity, connection, and impact and love with my family and my friends. This is the declaration. This is the expectation. And one of my favorite parts about all of these steps is knowing that it unlocks a really deep layer of both forgiveness and love, not just for others, but most importantly and critically, for ourselves. So the last question that you want to ask is, how can I expect the promise of my future? And know that through the completion of all 4 of these steps, you are no longer stuck in lack mentality or lack overall. You are walking out a life of abundance. So you've completed the 4 steps, but I want, of course, to repeat them so they stick with you, and the 4 audacious questions that are coupled with them. If you take it a step further to the kinesthetic experience and you get your body involved, we can now help to create a firm foundation. Are you ready? So go with me on your hand motion. Step 1 is to learn it. The question that you're asking is, where am I stuck? Step 2 is to own it. How have I contributed to the lack of abundance in my life? Remember, no finger pointing. Step 3 is to visualize it. It's to open your heart and head to the future and look in the question of the understanding of, what do I want my future to look like? And step 4 is to expect it. It's like a handshake to the future. And here you're asking the question of, how can I expect the promise of tomorrow to come to fruition? When you walk in abundance, there's these beautiful treasures that are laid along the way. Here's one right now. Abundant questions blended with love end up creating something fantastic. It's the life you've always wanted. Here it is. Learn it, L. Own it, O. Visualize it, V. Expect it, E. L-O-V-E. Love is the answer to abundance. And this is not just a cute acronym, so don't write it off. And it's not a tool to put away for a rainy day, but instead it's a new rhythm of grace. It's a new way of being. It's your opportunity for walking out abundance. And so understanding that your questions will rise or fall to the level of the audacious impact you desire to have, and to know that you can seek and find. You can knock and the door will be open to you. And every decision you make today will shape that future inscription. And so I want you to hear this. If you are hiding, stuck, small, or silenced, that I was able to turn that quiet kitchen vision into a war cry for humanity, and ultimately know that we can ask the big audacious questions and we can get to the future that is exceedingly and abundantly beyond what we could ask, think, or imagine. Go now, ask the big questions, and while you're at it, have a little fun.